Pope Francis has died.
Con profondo dolore devo annunciare la morte del nostro Santo Padre Francesco.
Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88. His health had been declining for some time, and in the weeks leading up to his death, he had been treated for pneumonia and kidney issues. Yet until the very end, he remained committed to his mission, delivering what would become his final Easter blessing just one day before his death. But in a moment that caught everyone off guard, Pope Francis made a deeply personal and unexpected announcement during a public address at the Vatican. The event, initially set to focus on global climate concerns, took an unexpected turn when the Pope brought up Catherine, Princess of Wales, more widely known as Kate Middleton. It was rare for the Pope to mention individual members of royal families, especially in such a public setting, and his words sparked immediate reaction across the world. He spoke of her strength, her public service, and her ongoing health challenges, describing her as a beacon of hope in troubled times. His tribute came just days after Catherine had released a video confirming her cancer diagnosis. It was the first time the public had heard from her directly in months, and it brought a wave of support not only from the UK but globally. The Pope's comments only deepened that emotional response, and many were surprised to learn he had followed her story so closely. Even more surprising was the revelation that the same Italian medical team that had treated Pope Francis during his own health issues had been involved in performing surgery on the Princess of Wales earlier that year. Though there had been no official confirmation of this connection beforehand, his comment shed new light on just how private and closely coordinated her medical care had been. The Vatican's cooperation with the British royal family on such a personal matter led many to wonder about behind-the-scenes links between two of the world's most powerful institutions. In that moment, the public was reminded that behind the titles, roles, and headlines, there are people experiencing private struggles. The Pope's words humanized not only Kate, but also the institution she represents. He praised her charity work, particularly her efforts in raising awareness around mental health, and her quiet visits to shelters and hospitals that had gone unpublicized until then. To understand the weight of his words and why they had such a strong impact, it's important to look at where Kate came from and how her life has unfolded. Before becoming a global public figure, she was just a girl from a modest background in southern England. Kate Middleton was born on January 9, 1982, in Reading, Berkshire, to Michael and Carol Middleton. Her parents weren't royal, aristocratic, or even particularly wealthy at the time. Both worked for British Airways, her father as a flight dispatcher and her mother as a flight attendant. In 1979, a year before they married, they bought a small two-bedroom house for £34,700. It was in that home that they began to build a family and a life that would eventually be thrust into the global spotlight. When Kate was just 2 years old, the family relocated to Jordan for her father's job. They lived there for 2 years, giving young Kate a taste of life in a completely different part of the world. Her early exposure to other cultures is something that friends and biographers have said helped shape her perspective and character. After returning to England in 1986, the family grew with the birth of James, Kate's younger brother. Along with her sister Pippa, they formed a close-knit group that remains tightly bonded to this day. The Middletons eventually settled in Bucklebury, a quiet village in Berkshire, where Kate spent most of her childhood. Interestingly, the village has historical connections to King Edward the Confessor, one of England's last Anglo-Saxon kings. While that fact may have seemed like an interesting footnote at the time, it's almost poetic now given Kate's future role in the monarchy. Kate's upbringing was described by many as normal and grounded. Her parents later started a successful party supplies business called Party Pieces, which allowed the family to move into a larger home as the business grew. Despite the increasing comfort of their lifestyle, Kate remained down to earth. She joined the local Brownies and took part in community activities just like any other child. She began her formal education at St. Andrew's School in Pangbourne, attending from 1986 to 1995. Academically driven and athletic, Kate was known for her determination and sporty nature. At one point, she even set a school record for the high jump, a record that stood for 25 years. But her school years weren't entirely smooth. She briefly attended Down House, a girls' boarding school, but reportedly struggled with bullying and a lack of fit. Her parents later moved her to Marlborough College, where she finally found her stride. There, she acted in school plays, earned excellent grades, and became part of a group of friends known as the Sisterhood, a light-hearted and supportive social club. After finishing school, Kate took a gap year, a choice that would ultimately play a huge role in her future. First, she spent 10 weeks in Chile with the charity Raleigh International, participating in environmental and community development work. It was physically demanding and emotionally challenging. Without luxuries or modern conveniences, it was a far cry from the life she would come to live. Yet those who knew her at the time recall her as tough, cheerful, and dependable, qualities that would later be praised by both the public and her royal in-laws. After Chile, Kate went to Florence, Italy to study art and learn Italian. She immersed herself in the culture, exploring museums and architecture, and developed a deeper appreciation for photography, a passion that would become central to her royal identity years later. Originally, Kate had accepted an offer to study at the University of Edinburgh, which was her dream school. But during her gap year, she changed her mind and applied to the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, just months before classes started. This last-minute switch raised eyebrows at the time, as it came not long after Prince William publicly announced that he would be attending St. Andrews. Some royal watchers and biographers, including Tina Brown and Omid Scobie, speculated that the move might have been influenced by her mother, Carol Middleton. According to them, Carol believed St. Andrews offered not only academic opportunity, but also the chance for her daughter to meet the future king. Whether or not that's true, the decision would end up changing Kate's life forever. St. Andrews's History of Art program, the course both she and Prince William initially enrolled in, was highly competitive, and with the increased media attention surrounding the young prince, applications surged. Kate was accepted, and in September 2001 she officially began her studies. She lived in St. Salvator's Hall, the same residence as Prince William, and although their first meeting was modest, reportedly over breakfast in the cafeteria, it marked the beginning of one of the most closely followed modern love stories. What started as a quiet student life in a coastal town would eventually turn into a path leading straight into the heart of Britain's royal family. But before that story unfolded, Kate was simply a student navigating young adulthood, studying, making friends, and living away from home for the first time. At the University of St. Andrews, life moved at a slower, more focused pace compared to the intense spotlight of public life that Catherine Middleton, or Kate as she was widely known at the time, would come to know. When she arrived in September 2001, she was just another student trying to find her way in a new environment. What few people knew then was that her decision to attend St. Andrews, after previously being accepted into the University of Edinburgh, would be one of the most significant choices of her life. She enrolled in the History of Art program, the same course Prince William had signed up for. The idea of the future king attending university alongside normal students had generated global interest. As a result, St. Andrews saw a noticeable rise in applications that year, particularly from young women. Some reports at the time claimed it was an unofficial Prince William effect. Kate's initial decision to switch universities raised questions among royal watchers and media outlets years later. Authors such as Tina Brown and Omid Scobie suggested that her mother, Carol Middleton, might have encouraged the move, believing it offered a rare opportunity. According to this theory, Carol saw the shift to St. Andrews, combined with a carefully planned gap year studying in Florence and volunteering in Chile, as a strategic step. It was seen by some not as manipulation, but as a calculated decision to position Kate in William's orbit. Whether or not that was the case, the result was undeniable. Their paths crossed early and often at university. Kate and William lived in the same residence hall during their first year, St. Salvator's Hall, a traditional building with shared dining spaces and common rooms that fostered community life. They reportedly met in the cafeteria during breakfast one morning. It wasn't a cinematic love-at-first-sight moment. In fact, William invited Kate and others to join his table, but she was shy and turned bright red before quietly walking away. At the time, neither saw each other as anything more than fellow students. In the early months, William was in a short-term relationship with another student, Carly Massey Birch, while Kate began dating Rupert Finch, her first university boyfriend. Still, because they lived in close proximity, Kate and William often ran into each other. William's room was just above Kate's, and they would sometimes see each other during morning routines. Kate returning from a jog, William heading to breakfast. Things began to shift in March 2002 during a student-run charity fashion show. Kate walked the runway in a sheer black dress, and for the first time, William saw her in a different light. Reportedly, he turned to a friend and said, "Wow, Kate's hot." While it would take months for anything romantic to blossom, that moment was a turning point in how he viewed her. By the end of their first year, the pair had become close friends. In their second year, they made the decision to move into a shared flat with 2 other students. This decision allowed them more privacy, especially as media interest in William's personal life remained intense. Though their relationship didn't become public until much later, it was around this time that they began dating. They asked their flatmates and friends to keep their romance private, and for nearly 2 years, they managed to stay out of the press. That changed in 2004, when they were photographed on a ski trip in Switzerland, officially confirming their relationship to the public. Over the next few years, the couple appeared to be solid. They spent time at Balmoral, the royal estate in Scotland, took trips together, and supported each other academically. William, who initially struggled with the history of art program, considered dropping out. It was Kate who reportedly encouraged him to switch his major to geography rather than leave the university altogether. He later credited her with helping him through that difficult time, suggesting their bond was based on more than just attraction. It was built on genuine friendship and support. But their relationship, like many others, had its ups and downs. In 2007, after several years of dating, William broke things off with Kate during a phone call. He told her he needed space and wasn't ready to commit to an engagement. Just days later, he was seen partying at a London nightclub and reportedly shouted, "I'm free!" The incident attracted widespread media attention and public criticism, especially as Kate had always handled herself with quiet dignity. Rather than retreat from the spotlight or respond emotionally, Kate handled the breakup with grace. She traveled to Dublin and Ibiza, spent time with friends, and appeared in public looking composed and confident. Her poise during that time reportedly caught William's attention once again. They reconnected at a costume party in June 2007. Kate dressed as a nurse, and they spent the night talking and dancing. Soon after, their relationship resumed. By July, Kate was invited to attend a concert commemorating Princess Diana, held at Wembley Stadium. She sat just a few rows behind William, a clear indication that their relationship was back on track. In later interviews, both Kate and William reflected on the breakup as a necessary time for personal growth. William admitted that they had needed space to figure out who they were, and Kate agreed that the experience made her stronger. Their engagement was announced on November 16, 2010, but they had actually been engaged for 3 weeks prior. William had proposed to Kate during a private trip to Kenya on October 20th. He presented her with a deeply meaningful ring, the same 18-karat blue sapphire and diamond ring that had belonged to his late mother, Princess Diana. He had been carrying it in his backpack for weeks, waiting for the right moment. In the official engagement photos, Kate's hands were visibly shaking, and William had to steady them. It was a small but endearing moment that made the couple even more relatable to the public. Kate wore a royal blue Isa dress for the announcement, a choice that quickly sparked what would be dubbed the Kate effect. The dress sold out in hours, and from that point on, nearly everything she wore became a trend. But it wasn't just about fashion. Kate had transitioned from being a student and girlfriend to becoming the future queen consort. The engagement caused a media frenzy. News outlets across the world covered every detail, from Kate's background to the location of the proposal. Social media was booming by that time, and platforms like Facebook and Twitter lit up with posts and speculation. The fact that Kate came from a middle-class background made the story all the more compelling to the public. She wasn't born into aristocracy. She had worked her way through life with determination, poise, and intelligence. The British government even declared their wedding day, April 29, 2011, a national holiday. Analysts estimated that the event would generate millions in tourism and merchandise. Meanwhile, the couple remained focused on each other. Despite the growing pressure and attention, they carried themselves with calm and composure. In the months leading up to the wedding, Kate began preparing not just for the ceremony, but for her new role. She left her job at her parents' company, Party Pieces, and started private training in royal protocol. She also began to appear more frequently at public events alongside William, stepping further into the royal spotlight. After the grand wedding at Westminster Abbey in April 2011, Kate Middleton officially became Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. The ceremony, watched by an estimated 2 billion people worldwide, marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. But once the crowds had dispersed and the headlines had faded, the real work began. Catherine was no longer just a private citizen. She was now a senior member of the British royal family, with duties, expectations, and constant public attention. From the outset, it was clear that she intended to approach her role in a way that was personal and measured. While many royal brides before her had quickly immersed themselves in a heavy schedule of public engagements, Catherine chose a slower pace. In her first year as a royal, she attended just 34 official events. This was in stark contrast to Princess Diana, who had completed 170 engagements in her first year of royal life. Some sections of the media labeled her Lazy Katie, questioning her commitment. But those closer to her understood that she was taking the time to adjust, to understand the expectations of her new role, and most importantly, to lay a foundation for balancing her royal responsibilities with her desire to build a family. Catherine's decision to prioritize her family life, particularly in those early years, reflected a more modern and relatable approach to royal duty. It wasn't about rejecting tradition, but reshaping it. She made it clear from early on that she wanted to raise her children herself, at least during the formative stages of their lives. This was a significant break from royal tradition, where nannies and staff typically played a major role in child rearing from birth. When Prince George was born in July 2013, Catherine surprised many by choosing to move into her parents' home in Bucklebury for the first 6 weeks. There, she had the support of her family, while adapting to life as a new mother. There were no royal staff following her every move, no formal photo calls apart from the customary steps outside the hospital. The image of William and Catherine standing casually with their newborn son, smiling nervously for the cameras, marked a noticeable shift in royal image. Less staged, more human. This down-to-earth approach resonated with the public. Instead of seeing a distant figure dressed in formality, people saw a woman trying to navigate new motherhood, just like so many others. The decision to focus on her children didn't mean she ignored her public duties. Instead, she eased into them, gradually taking on patronages and attending engagements that aligned with her interests and values. One of her earliest overseas tours came just months after her wedding, when she and Prince William visited Canada and the United States in the summer of 2011. The tour was seen as a resounding success. The couple appeared relaxed, approachable, and in touch with the people they met. One of the most talked about moments occurred at the Calgary Stampede, where they wore cowboy hats and joined in the local festivities. The pictures went viral, and it was clear that this was not the traditional image of royalty many were used to. Catherine's first solo engagement came in November 2012, when she attended a state reception in Luxembourg on behalf of the Queen. It was a last-minute change in schedule, but she handled it with calm professionalism. Her ability to adapt and remain composed under pressure impressed those around her and demonstrated that she was ready for more responsibility when the time was right. As her public role grew, so did her influence. One area where this was particularly visible was fashion. Catherine quickly became a global style icon. What she wore often made headlines the next day, and the so-called Kate effect began to impact consumer behavior. Dresses, coats, shoes, and accessories she wore frequently sold out within hours. But what made her stand out wasn't just her sense of style. It was how she combined high-end pieces with affordable brands. She often mixed designer labels with more accessible high-street options like Zara or Rice. One memorable example came during a meeting with then First Lady Michelle Obama. Catherine wore a simple cream-colored Rice dress priced at around £175. The dress sold out so quickly that the brand's website crashed. The moment symbolized her ability to influence without appearing out of touch. Catherine's approach to public life remained rooted in her personal values. She was not interested in being a celebrity figure or dominating headlines. Instead, she quietly focused on causes that mattered to her, particularly children's mental health, early childhood development, and family support. Over the years, she has worked closely with organizations like Place 2B, Action on Addiction, and the Anna Freud Center. Her goal has been consistent: to create lasting change by supporting the emotional well-being of young people and their families. Catherine's pregnancies became events in themselves. Her first pregnancy, announced in December 2012, made front-page news around the world. However, it wasn't revealed in the way she would have liked. She was hospitalized with a severe form of morning sickness called hyperemesis gravidarum, which forced the palace to confirm the news earlier than planned. Despite the physical toll, Catherine remained committed to her royal duties as much as her health allowed. Prince George was born on July 22, 2013, and for the first time in over a century, 3 direct heirs to the throne, Charles, William, and George, were alive at the same time. When Princess Charlotte was born on May 2, 2015, her place in the line of succession was protected by a new law that ended male preference. It was a historic move for gender equality in the monarchy. No longer would a younger brother automatically take precedence over an older sister. Prince Louis, their third child, was born on April 23, 2018, on St. George's Day. Catherine surprised many by appearing outside the hospital just 7 hours after giving birth, dressed in a red Jenny Packham dress that was widely interpreted as a tribute to Princess Diana. The moment, though carefully managed, showed her commitment to public tradition, while nodding to her husband's family history. Outside of the hospital photo calls, Catherine and William have largely kept their children out of the spotlight. They have carefully balanced public appearances with privacy, choosing moments of visibility, such as first day of school photos or royal balcony appearances, while shielding them from excessive media attention. This controlled approach has helped protect their children's sense of normalcy while fulfilling the public's interest. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Catherine's focus on family and duty became even more apparent. While homeschooling her children, she continued to work remotely, holding virtual meetings with charities and health professionals. In May 2020, she launched the Hold Still Photography Project, which invited people across the UK to submit images that captured life during lockdown. The project received over 30,000 entries and was later turned into a digital exhibition and book. It was one of the most personal and relatable projects she had undertaken. Despite these achievements, Catherine's path hasn't always been smooth. Early criticisms of her lighter royal schedule, intense media scrutiny of her fashion choices, and endless comparisons to Diana were all part of her journey. Yet through it all, she has remained consistent in her values, prioritizing family, focusing on meaningful causes, and staying grounded in an environment where it's easy to lose perspective. As her role within the royal family continued to grow, she also became a stabilizing presence. In times of public strain, particularly surrounding royal tensions, Catherine was often seen as a calm and unifying figure. She has rarely responded to gossip or speculation, and has maintained a steady course, often through silence and consistency. Catherine's first decade as a royal was not defined by grand declarations or bold headlines. Instead, it was marked by a steady and thoughtful approach, rooted in her commitment to family and service. From her careful entry into royal life to her impact on issues like children's mental health and early development, she has shown that modern royalty doesn't need to be loud to be effective. As Catherine, Princess of Wales, continued to grow into her role as a senior royal, she also found herself navigating one of the most challenging periods for the modern monarchy. The early 2020s brought a combination of public health crises, intense family drama, shifting public expectations, and growing scrutiny from the media. Through it all, Catherine remained composed in public, but behind the carefully maintained image was a woman juggling the demands of family life, royal duty, and the pressures of being one of the most watched women in the world. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 marked a significant turning point, not just for the royal family, but for Catherine personally. As lockdowns swept across the UK and the world, traditional royal engagements were no longer possible. Like millions of families, Catherine and Prince William were suddenly home full-time with their children, taking on the role of teachers while continuing to fulfill their public responsibilities. During this time, the couple turned to virtual methods to stay connected with the public. They held video calls with key workers, NHS staff, teachers, and care home residents. Catherine appeared frequently from their country home in Norfolk, offering encouragement and recognition to those working on the front lines. She also helped launch initiatives aimed at supporting mental health and early childhood development during the crisis. Despite the positive work, there were moments of criticism and scrutiny. Early in the pandemic, Catherine was photographed on several occasions without wearing a face mask, which led to questions about the example being set by the royal family. Though guidelines around mask wearing were constantly evolving at the time, the media quickly jumped on the opportunity to critique. It wasn't until 6 months into the pandemic that she was publicly seen wearing one during a visit to a food bank, where she wore a floral mask that sold out online within hours. During this time, she also launched the Hold Still photography project in partnership with the National Portrait Gallery. The project encouraged members of the public to submit photos capturing life during lockdown. It received over 30,000 entries and painted an intimate portrait of the nation during a difficult time. This initiative, more than most, reflected Catherine's ability to connect with the public in meaningful ways without needing large events or grand gestures. However, while Catherine worked to maintain a steady presence behind palace walls, the royal family was under pressure. In January 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made the explosive decision to step back from their roles as working royals. The announcement came just 1 day before Catherine's 38th birthday, a timing that many commentators and royal insiders viewed as unfortunate at best, inconsiderate at worst. From that point, the media narrative around the royal family began to shift dramatically. Coverage became more polarized, with some supporting Harry and Meghan's choice, and others accusing them of disrupting the monarchy at a sensitive time. Catherine found herself at the center of it all, even though she had remained silent and continued to carry out her responsibilities. The tension between the couples became more obvious over time. In 2021, the Sussexes gave a highly publicized interview to Oprah Winfrey, during which Meghan claimed that Catherine had made her cry in the lead-up to her wedding, a reversal of earlier media reports. The comment caused a media firestorm. Although Catherine never publicly responded to the claim, palace sources described her as being deeply affected by the portrayal, particularly because she had worked hard to support Meghan privately during that time. Then, in January 2023, Prince Harry released his memoir titled Spare. The book included numerous personal revelations about life inside the royal family and detailed a physical altercation between Harry and Prince William. Catherine's name also appeared several times in the narrative, further adding to the strain. What stung even more was that the book's release happened again around Catherine's birthday, just as the previous announcement from Harry and Meghan had. Though she remained composed in public, it was clear that these events were wearing on her and the institution as a whole. Throughout this period, Catherine responded not with statements or interviews, but with a renewed focus on her royal work. She began taking on more responsibilities, attending higher-profile engagements, and positioning herself as a central figure in the monarchy's next generation. While King Charles and Queen Camilla managed official duties, it became increasingly clear that Catherine and William were emerging as the public face of the royal family's future. Still, even the most composed public figures can't control everything. In March 2024, an unexpected controversy erupted over a photograph shared by Kensington Palace for Mother's Day. The image showed Catherine with her 3 children smiling together in what was meant to be a comforting and familiar scene. But eagle-eyed viewers quickly noticed inconsistencies in the photo: an oddly placed zipper, an unnatural sleeve fold. News agencies including Reuters and AFP pulled the image, citing that it had been digitally altered. The response online was swift and relentless. Hashtags like #KateGate began trending, and even Dublin Airport jokingly tweeted a photoshopped image of an actor with altered features, mocking the situation. The palace initially stayed quiet, but as speculation intensified, Catherine issued a rare personal statement, admitting that she had edited the photo herself. She said she was simply experimenting with photography, a longtime hobby of hers, and had not intended to mislead anyone. While some appreciated her honesty, others questioned why a royal photo would be shared without professional review. Trust in Kensington Palace's communications took a hit. and the incident raised broader questions about the balance between authenticity and image management in the digital age. It was a moment that revealed how even the most carefully curated public personas are vulnerable in today's fast-moving media environment. What made the situation even more complicated was that Catherine had not been seen in public for some time prior to the photo release. In January 2024, the palace had announced that she was recovering from abdominal surgery and would not return to public duties until after Easter. Her prolonged absence sparked concern and led to wild speculation online. Some rumors suggested she was in a medically induced coma, while others claimed she had undergone cosmetic surgery. Conspiracy theories spread quickly, fueled by the lack of clear updates from the palace. Throughout all of this, Catherine remained silent. It wasn't until March 22, 2024, that she finally appeared in a video message, calmly explaining that post-operative tests had revealed cancer and that she was undergoing preventative chemotherapy. The announcement was raw, honest, and deeply personal. She explained that she and William had needed time to process the diagnosis and to explain it gently to their children. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from someone who had always maintained a reserved and composed public image. The video marked the end of months of speculation, but also ushered in a new conversation about how much privacy public figures, particularly royals, are entitled to. The outpouring of support was immediate. Health organizations praised her for encouraging early testing and breaking the stigma around cancer treatment. But the period leading up to the announcement had taken its toll on her, her family, and on public trust in the palace's communication strategies. What became increasingly evident was that Catherine's role was no longer simply ceremonial. She had become a symbol of resilience, both admired and criticized for the way she navigated an extraordinary mix of personal and public challenges. Whether handling family conflict, media controversies, or serious health issues, she remained composed and focused on her work. The confirmation of Catherine, Princess of Wales's cancer diagnosis in March 2024 brought an end to months of growing speculation, but it also opened a new chapter in the public's understanding of her. After years of service and a carefully maintained image of grace and composure, her decision to share her health news through a direct and personal video message came as both a shock and a moment of deep human connection. In the video, Catherine appeared thinner and noticeably subdued, but her voice remained calm. She explained that after her abdominal surgery in January, follow-up tests had revealed cancer. As a result, she had begun a course of preventative chemotherapy. The news was unexpected. Until that point, her absence from public life had been surrounded by confusion, unanswered questions, and in many cases, unfair speculation. She spoke with clear emotion but remained steady, saying the diagnosis had come as a huge shock to both her and Prince William. They had taken time to process the news in private, and more importantly, to explain it gently to their 3 children. For many viewers, it was the first time they saw a deeply personal side of Catherine, one not framed by official duties or royal events. The sincerity in her voice and the direct way she addressed the public resonated widely. The response was immediate. Health organizations praised her openness and noted a sharp rise in cancer screenings and inquiries following her announcement. Across social media, people from all walks of life shared their own experiences with illness, using her bravery as a source of inspiration. But the announcement also sparked broader conversations about how much privacy public figures are entitled to, particularly in a digital world where absence often leads to speculation. What made this moment even more poignant was the timing of another significant event. On June 7, 2024, Pope Francis, just weeks before his passing, spoke at a Vatican audience where he addressed not global policy or church matters, but Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The event was originally planned as a discussion on climate change, but the Pope used the occasion to offer heartfelt remarks about Catherine and her health. He referred to her as a beacon of hope, especially in times where the world was craving strength and honesty from public figures. His tribute came just as Catherine had begun stepping back from public duties to continue her treatment in private. The Pope, known for rarely commenting on members of royal families, made it clear that he had been closely following her story. Then came a surprising detail. He revealed that the Italian medical team, who had been part of his own care in previous years, had traveled to London to assist in Catherine's surgery. This information had not been previously made public, and it suggested a closer connection between the Vatican and the British royal family than most had imagined. The Pope praised Catherine's work in the area of mental health and early childhood support. He acknowledged her involvement in over 87 charitable events between January 2023 and January 2024, despite her increasingly private life. He mentioned her quiet visits to children's hospices and shelters, and revealed that she had privately visited 12 homeless shelters across London in the months leading up to her diagnosis. These visits were never shared with the press and were done without cameras, underscoring her genuine commitment to supporting those in need. This previously unknown level of behind-the-scenes charity work painted a fuller picture of Catherine's values and her approach to duty. It also helped explain why, even as speculation swirled during her absence, many people still gave her the benefit of the doubt. Her record of consistency, compassion, and service spoke for itself, even when she was silent. Pope Francis continued by highlighting the wider impact of Catherine's announcement. He shared that in the weeks following her cancer reveal, the number of cancer screenings across the UK had increased by 35%. That number was both impressive and revealing. It showed how influential her voice could be and how deeply her story had resonated with the public. Even while undergoing treatment, Catherine remained engaged with her work in more limited ways. She appeared briefly at the Trooping the Color ceremony on June 15, 2024, a moment that reassured many about her recovery. Though she didn't give a speech or engage in interviews, her presence alone was a powerful message. She was still here, still part of the institution, and still committed to her role. In the same address, Pope Francis made a rare plea to the public and the press. He called for restraint and kindness, noting that over 15,000 articles had been published about Catherine's diagnosis in just 1 month. He pointed out that such intense media pressure could be harmful, not only emotionally, but physically. He reminded the audience that stress can interfere with the effectiveness of cancer treatment, and urged everyone to remember that public figures are human too. He also touched on the role of social media. Within 24 hours of Catherine's video release, there had been over 2.7 million posts about her on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. While some of these posts were supportive, many were speculative and invasive. The Pope stressed the need for people to consider the impact of what they share, especially when it involves someone facing a life-altering health battle. In a moving conclusion, he encouraged those following Catherine's story to channel their energy into something positive. He suggested that the best way to honor her strength was not through gossip or viral content, but by supporting cancer research, mental health services, and vulnerable communities. His remarks echoed the same message Catherine had shared in her video, that while her journey was personal, it could also be a force for greater understanding and compassion. The address would become one of the Pope's final public statements before his death in April 2025 at the age of 88. His passing marked the end of a papacy defined by humility, progress, and compassion. Tributes came in from around the world, including a personal message from King Charles, who reflected on their final meeting and the Pope's enduring kindness. For many, his tribute to Catherine now stands as part of his lasting legacy, a reminder of the power of empathy in leadership and the importance of recognizing humanity in those who live under the glare of public attention. As Catherine continues her treatment away from the spotlight, the world watches with a mixture of concern and admiration. She has shown once again that strength doesn't always come from speaking the loudest or appearing the most. Sometimes it comes from knowing when to speak, how to connect, and having the courage to let people see the truth, even when it's difficult. Her journey is far from over. But in the eyes of many, she has already shown what a modern royal can be. Not just a symbol, but a person who listens, feels, and leads with quiet determination. The months ahead will be shaped by recovery, reflection, and resilience. And whether or not she returns to public life in the same way as before, her legacy, like the Pope's, will include a deep and lasting impact built on grace, honesty, and strength.